All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakwakadash. Double honors to the elders of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the brothers that are doing this work in true sincerity. And we're going to jump right into the scriptures, and we're going to go basically looking at what an unclean spirit is. Because there's clean and there's unclean. And every time when Yahweh Shai, so-called exorcise a demon out of a person, that demon or that entity was called the unclean spirit. And Yahweh Shai cleansed that person and healed them. So we're going to go ahead and get Mark 1 and 40. It says, there came a leper to him, beseeching him, and kneeling down to him, and saying unto him, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. Now this is the man that's suffering from a sickness that basically made him unclean, because there was a law against leprosy. He was be separated from the people, because there was a defect upon him. There was a illness, a disease upon him. So Yahushua moved with compassion, put forth his hand, touched him, and said unto him, I will be thou clean. So he was cleansed. So basically, as we read on, as soon as he had spoken to me, the leprosy departed from him. He was cleansed. And he straightly charged him and forced him, sent him away, saying, say thou say nothing to any man, but go thy way, show us to the priest. Now for their cleaning those things Moses commanded for a testimony unto them. But he went out and began to publish it much, and basically brought them batter, and so much that Yahushua could no more be in the city, but was without death. The place there came to him every quarter. So basically, the point I want to get in that is that the Lord is the only thing, or the Word is the only thing that can cleanse you from an unclean spirit. Going back to Psalms 119, let's go ahead and get that. Salat. 119 and 9, and it says, wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? Let's get the word cleanse. Pure, to be clean, to be clear, to be justified, to make clean, to keep pure, to make yourself clean. And the answer is by taking heed thereunto according to thy word. So the key point of that is taking heed, man. If the scriptures tell you to do something or to not to do something, that's what's going to cleanse you. That's what's going to cleanse you from whatever's wrong with you. It could be a way of thinking. It could be a habit. It could be a diet. It could be anything that's contrary to the law, statutes, and commandments, and to the will of the Most High. Because if you look in the scriptures about the unclean spirits, they all had certain attributes. And we're going to go ahead and look at them. And we'll start at Mark 12 and 43. Matthew 12 and 43, Salakia. It says, when the unclean spirit, is the word you have shared, the words in red, is gone out of a man. So how does the unclean spirit leave a man? By this word. When you come into this truth, those unclean spirits, by taking heed, by following the way of Psalm 119 and 19. Is that what it was? Yeah, 119 and 9. It's like when you cleanse your way When you come back to obedience to the Most High, then you're clean. But your condition before that was a state of uncleanliness. You had a spotted garment. You had figs and aprons on. That's going back to Genesis. When it says that Adam and Eve. Go ahead and get that. This is Deuteronomy 3 and 7. This is after the fall of Adam and Eve, when they succumbed to the wicked philosophies of the adversary and the people around them. It says, the eyes of them were both open, and they knew that they were naked, so they knew their shame. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. And that's basically saying that they took on the identity of the heathen among them. They became unclean. So going back to Matthew. When an unclean spirit is gone out of a man, when he ceases to do those things of wickedness, those things of the heathen, then he is clean. He is cleansed to the word. Then he says, I return to my house from whence I came out, and when he is come, he finds it empty, swept, and garnished. See, there's no defilement there. Your spirit is cleansed. Then goes he and takes for himself 7 other spirits more wicked than himself. They enter and dwell there, and last state of man is worse than the first, even so shall it be also unto this wicked generation. So an unclean spirit, it just worsens with time. And you see that in the people today. The level of wickedness is just skyrocketing. It's being more magnified. It's being more exalted. So when you go out there in the world and you interact with certain things in your personal life and people around you, you got to be aware of unclean spirits or wicked influences. You can call them that as well. And that can come in the form of movies, music, and media. Because you can understand movies, music, and media, they're propagandas, they're spirits, they're witchcraft set up by Esau to have an influence upon your spirit, to have an influence upon your mentality, to have an influence upon your way of thinking. That's why when Jake listens to so-called gangster music, gangster rap, or whatever certain songs, it invokes a spirit in him to be like that, to be violent, to take a person's life. There's songs about adultery, there's songs about sex, there's songs about drinking. And all these things are basically tools, witchcraft that the enemy uses to influence Jake, to get him in that unclean state, to take on those unclean spirits or those unclean philosophies or the negative influences. So you got to be aware of that, man. You got to be aware that everything that you come in contact with and everything that you see and hear, if you're not grounded in the spirit, if you're not walking in the spirit, it could have an effect on you, so much so that it can influence you. It can make you sick. It can make you lustful. It can make you to indulge in things that you overindulge in things. For instance, there's nothing wrong with drinking, but if you allow yourself to be controlled by that, that drinking can lead for you to have negative behaviors or self-destructive behaviors. If you're into whatever folly that you're into, if you overindulge in it, it can lead to a destruction, man. It can lead to a negative experience for you. It could be that way with women, you know, with sex, with alcohol, with food, uh, with anything, man. So you got to be wary of unclean spirits. Let's go ahead and return these scriptures. We typed in unclean spirits. Let's get this in Mark 1:23. It says, Yahushua heals a man with unclean spirits, and they went into Capernaum straightway on the Sabbath day into synagogue and taught. And they were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them with one authority not described, because he was the Word himself, and the Word has authority. He is the Word of God incarnate. And there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, saying, Let us alone, what have we to do with thee, thou Yahushua of Nazareth? I don't like saying the word Jesus. Art thou come to destroy us? I know who thou art, the Holy One of Yahweh. So that's one of the attributes of an unclean spirit. It's contrary to the Lord. What have we to do with thee? It says the unclean spirit said that. You know, it doesn't want any part of this word. That's when sometimes you try to tell somebody the truth, and they just revolt and just act crazy about it. That's that unclean spirit in that person, uh, being rebellious and revolting against it. And Yahushua rebuked him, saying, Hold thy peace and come out of him. And when the unclean spirit had torn him and cried with a loud voice, he came out of him. So he was in his right mind. He was ready to receive the word. He was ready to be accepting of what was told to him by Yahushua. But prior to that, he didn't want nothing to do with it. What have you to do with me? What have we to do with thou, basically? So that's another attribute of an unclean spirit. Let's go ahead and get Mark 3:30. Let's see here. Well, there was just them accusing Yahushua of having an unclean spirit, because they didn't want to accept the words that he said. But let's find something else. Mark 5:2. The subtitle for this chapter is Yahushua heals a man with a demon. It says, they came over into the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And he was come out of the ship, and immediately met him up, a man out of the tombs, a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, not with chains, because he had often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces. Neither could any man tame him. Always night and day he was in the mountains and the tombs, crying and cut himself with stones. So that unclean spirit, it affected him, basically it affected him physically. Basically he had no control over his own self. He was self-destructive, because they said he was cutting himself. And it said he was crying. He was just hysterical. He had a high level of anxiety on him. His spirit was not at ease, man. And they know who the Lord is too. These unclean spirits. That's why when you go to certain places, and it's not surprising when people act like a certain way towards you. You don't have to say nothing about the Lord. They know who you are in the spirit. The demons within them know who you are in the spirit, man. Sometimes that's why brothers When brothers go to certain places, people act differently around them, or they like acknowledge them without any reason, without for no reason. It's because those spirits in those individuals, they recognize the spirit that's upon us. Because you got to understand, all of this truth is very supernatural. Let's get a wrestle not against flesh and blood. Let's see. Ephesians 6 and 12. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood." But as you read in the scriptures, those spirits can take on the form of flesh and blood or physical things. But there's principalities and powers behind those things. You got to understand that too. There's principalities and powers behind the music and the movies and the social media and all these things that can negatively influence you. There's principalities and powers behind those things against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. High places are what? The government. They're the ones that put out this propaganda and this program to basically, they call it social engineering, one of the terms they use for it. They call it predictive programming. These are men in high places putting forth different agendas for your destruction. Whether those things were revealed. It's been revealed about the music industry, how there's a wickedness in high places. These top CEOs of the music industry and the agendas that they have, the homosexual agendas, the putting forth of negative music or violent music to the influence of Jake. These principalities and powers are behind these things. And the point of the lesson is to be aware of them. Be aware of what influences you and how you let things influence you. Now, the scripture said that, what's the word? Was it trying to remember? Let me go ahead and get it. This is the Numbers 23 and 23. And it says, "Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. According to the time it shall be said of Jacob, Israel, what has Yahweh wrought." So you in the right spirit, if you in the spirit, if you're aligned with Yahweh Shai, then these enchantments, let's get that word enchantment. Incantations, augury, enchantment. These devices don't have if you're of the elect, they're not going to have an effect on you. If you're not grounded in the spirit, if you're not aware of those things, they might have an effect on you, man. It's a need of intervention against Israel, but ultimately that goes into that no matter what these devils do, no matter what enchantments or portals they open or whatever the hell they do, it's not gonna take the victory from the elect or the victory from Yahweh Shai. There's no left hand bullshit that Esau can conjure up that's gonna go against the scriptures. You can say that, and there's no enchantment or witchcraft that's gonna go against the elect. But the point of the lesson is to be aware of the wicked and spiritual influences around you, and how things can and will affect your spirit if you allow them to. But with that being said, just a real quick lesson. Most High willing, I hope it was edifying. I said I want to give honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Kahala Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Brothers, keep on pushing. Shalom.